What if suffering is not a mistake but a necessity? What if, rather than being a deviation from the natural order, suffering is the very axis upon which consciousness turns? One question has remained constant across millennia, continents, and civilizations. Why do we suffer? From the earliest Vedic hymns to the clinical writings of Carl Jung, from the sermons of the Buddha to the meditations of Marcus Aurelius, suffering has never been ignored. Rather, it has been central. Because in suffering, we encounter the full complexity of what it means to be human. Welcome to Metaphysics Diary. Today, we explore one of the most profound subjects of all, the metaphysics of suffering. A journey into the essence of pain, its cosmic significance, and its transformative potential. Across all cultures and epochs, suffering has remained a universal human experience. The Buddha begins his Four Noble Truths by declaring, life is dukkha. That is, life is marked by dissatisfaction, restlessness, and suffering. In Christianity, the image of Christ on the cross is not only a representation of sacrifice, but also of divine suffering. In Islam, the trials of the prophets symbolize not the wrath of God, but the testing and deepening of faith. Hinduism sees suffering through karma and samsara, cycles of action and rebirth, where each soul learns through experience. In Judaism, the Book of Job raises the existential question, why do the righteous suffer? So suffering is not incidental. It is woven into the very fabric of the human condition. But why? Carl Jung wrote, "There is no coming to consciousness without pain." To suffer is to be broken open. Jung believed that the psyche is not merely rational, it is mythic, symbolic, and archetypal. Suffering initiates a process of individuation, the journey toward wholeness. When a person suffers, their conscious identity, the ego, is often shaken or shattered. But in that very shattering, the deeper layers of the psyche become accessible. The unconscious reveals itself not in comfort, but in crisis. Our fears, repressed desires, and unintegrated parts emerge when our defenses fall. Suffering becomes the doorway to depth. It is the fire in which the fragmented self can be melted and reformed. Now let us move from psychology to metaphysics. In metaphysical terms, suffering is not merely emotional or physical. It is ontological. It concerns the very nature of being. Heidegger argued that anxiety, angst, reveals the nothingness behind our everyday assumptions. When we suffer, we are forced to confront our thrownness, our facticity. We did not choose to be born, and yet here we are. In suffering, we awaken to the uncanny strangeness of existence itself. Similarly, existentialists like Sartre and Camus viewed suffering as central to the human condition. Camus' famous question, whether life is worth living, is not nihilistic. It is the most honest question of all. The myth of Sisyphus is the image of man condemned to roll a boulder uphill forever, an absurd task. And yet, Camus concludes, one must imagine Sisyphus happy. Why? Because in confronting absurdity, in suffering consciously, we find our freedom. Let us be clear, suffering in and of itself is not virtuous. It is not to be glorified. But suffering can become meaningful. It is not the pain itself that enlightens us. It is the insight born of how we respond to it. Nietzsche, the firebrand of modern philosophy, wrote, "To live is to suffer. To survive is to find some meaning in the suffering." And again, "What does not kill me makes me stronger." These are not cliches. They are deeply metaphysical assertions. They claim that meaning is not given to us. It must be forged in the crucible of pain. Mystics across traditions have echoed this. Rumi says, "The wound is where the light enters." Teresa of Avila speaks of divine abandonment as the dark night of the soul. In these traditions, suffering is purification. It burns away illusion, it humbles the ego, it breaks open the heart. In the East, the idea of detachment plays a central role in transforming suffering. The Bhagavad Gita advises action without attachment to outcomes. The Buddha teaches the cessation of suffering through the cessation of craving. Zen embraces paradox and contradiction, allowing suffering to simply be without resisting or clinging. Contrast this with the West's impulse to interpret, resolve, or conquer suffering. But perhaps we need both perspectives. From the East, we learn stillness, presence, surrender. From the West, we learn critical thought, ethical responsibility, and psychological depth. Together, they form a holistic path, not of escape, but of engagement. While much of metaphysical suffering is internal, there is another layer, collective suffering. History is replete with genocides, wars, colonization, slavery, and systemic oppression. Can metaphysics speak to this? Yes, because these are not just political or economic tragedies, they are ontological wounds. They fracture not only societies, but the very being of those who suffer and those who perpetrate. True healing requires not just justice, but remembrance. A metaphysics of suffering must include historical memory, intergenerational trauma, and a vision of liberation, not only individual, but collective. So, is suffering meaningful? Let us not pretend to answer this lightly. Some suffering defies reason. The loss of a child, the experience of torture, terminal illness, these may forever remain mysteries. And yet for many, suffering leads to awakening, to a softening of the heart, to clarity about what matters, to a sense of presence that no pleasure ever produced. Viktor Frankl, a Holocaust survivor, wrote, "When we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves." His experience birthed logotherapy, a therapy rooted in the human quest for meaning. So while suffering is not inherently good, it is inherently potent. It can destroy us, or it can transform us. Suffering asks us to listen, to pause, to feel. It asks us to stop running, numbing, distracting. It demands stillness. In that stillness, we begin to hear something ancient, a whisper from the soul. That whisper may say, "You are not what you do. You are not what you own. You are not even who you think you are. You are being itself, and you have forgotten." Suffering then becomes the great revealer. If this exploration has stirred something within you, know that you are not alone. The very fact that you are drawn to this inquiry is a sign of awakening. Let this not be the end, but the beginning. A call to turn inward. A call to sit with your own pain, not to fix it, but to understand it. If this message resonated, please subscribe to Metaphysics Diary. Leave a comment. What has suffering taught you? What part of your journey has brought you closest to truth? Here, we do not offer escape, we offer a mirror. Until next time, stay curious, stay conscious, and above all, stay human.